A nice little 68-35 run with the complimentary plays over the past 53 days after a 2-0 sweep last night, cashing in with run line winners on Kansas City, 12-1 over Detroit, and Toronto, 5-1 over Cleveland. Of course, the problem was last night that I had my 7th ever 20-dime baseball release in my career, 7th ever, and lost a run line play with the Dodgers. Despite the fact that Clayton Kershaw struck out 187 batters in the game, despite the fact that he looked like the second coming of Cy Young, problem is the Dodgers plus 105 on the run line only won 2-1. Now, you may recall that a few weeks ago, I went into a big dissertation here based on some research I had done looking at the Dodgers' two aces, Zach Greinke and Clayton Kershaw, who ironically each won 2-1 the past two nights in the series against the Giants. And I looked at how they had not been a favorable run line play most times this season, as opposed to somebody like Toronto's Drew Hutchinson, not even close to being in their class, but a guy that was receiving 142 runs of support per game. Went into that dissertation and yet still used the Dodgers on the run line last night. Well, needless to say, that prompted a few emails to customer service, one of which I'm going to take the time to read for you right now. And it says, Dear Al, well, at least it started nicely. Dear Al, what were you thinking of going with the Dodgers on the run line last night? Why didn't you go with Toronto or Kansas City or two complimentary plays on the run line since they won by a combined score of 17-2? Well, I think that's a very fair question, don't you think, as well? The letter goes on. The writer says that you went into this long sermon about how the Dodgers continually failed to give either Kershaw or Zach Greinke any type of offensive support, and yet you went ahead and used the Dodgers last night, justifying your decision by saying that the Dodgers were 9-3 in Kershaw's home starts this season, and that in all 9 wins, they had won by at least 2 runs. How did that work out? Question mark, exclamation point. Well, it is true. They were 9-3 in Kershaw's wins at home this season, and all 9, or in starts this season, and all 9 of those were by at least 2-run margins, making him a great, as far as I was concerned, 75% play on the run line for the season, and that's why I took him tonight. Finally, the letter concludes, listen, I followed you for years, but you've got to do a better job on these big plays. Signed, your mother. P.S. Are you still coming for dinner on Sunday? So it just shows you the level of complaints that I was getting after losing that play last night. But listen, guys, I've got 2 more complimentary plays here in lieu of college football starting this evening. I'm going to take a look at your games between Utah and Michigan, North Carolina and South Carolina. Remember, that's an early kickoff at 6 Eastern time. Plus, my thoughts, since I handicapped the game on Central Florida and Florida International, I thought I'd give them to you as well. Today, the half-price play of the day, well, you know, guys always ask at the beginning of the season, who has done exceptionally well in football? Well, no ifs, ands, or buts. The winningest handicapper here in football over the past 5 years, college and pro combined, has been Shawn Michaels, because in that stretch, $10 bettors have made over $30,000, $30,805 to be exact. And tonight, he kicks off the season with his 100-dime max wager college KO game of the year. It's your contest between Michigan and Utah. He is 20-6 with college football 100-dime plays over the past 2 years, including his 100-dime college KO winner last season. September 1st was the date. Louisville, you may recall, 5-point favorite, rolled over Miami of Florida, 31-13. This play matches his 100-dime winner on the Patriots in the Super Bowl, FYI 59-31 run with 100-dime releases in the NFL over the past 5 years, and this play is just as strong. You get it as the half-price plays day, as I continue to show you that you do not have to spend big money to make big money, and that coupon code is simply Sean, S-E-A-N, in honor of Shawn Michaels, who's going for winning day number 145 out of 258 overall. Once again, Sean, little heads up for you, Brian Rosica, or Rosica. Is it Rosica? I got to really find out which way he likes it pronounced. Never thought of that. Anyway, listen, he went 4-0 with his preseason 25-dime releases in the NFL. He's got a 50-dime play tonight. Michigan, Utah, same exact side as Michaels is on in that one. Also, you have, don't forget baseball. Listen, props going out to Jeff Benton. Last night, you got his 89 winner, number 11 out of 12, 16 out of 20. With the Twins, you got it for $22, saving $77 off the regular price. Tonight, he ups the ante. 109 National League Game of the Year, Giants and Rockies. You save $80 by using coupon code 100DIMER, 100DIMER, for a guy who has made $10 bettors in baseball the past 2 years combined, over $16,000, who has made players in all sports combined since April of 2014. Over $16,900. So that is available on the homepage as well, plus the 777 play of the day. 100 max wager play from Scott Delaney's opening college game of the year, South Carolina, North Carolina. You save $70. There's another one for you. This is a guy who's on an 81 and 58 roll with 100 plays in all sports over the past few years. Kickoff is that coupon code, KICKOFF, to save $70 for Scott Delaney. As I said, all your coupons, etc., over on the homepage. Let's get to your complimentary plays. I'll do these in reverse chronological order for you. First of all, I take a look at the Utah-Michigan game. Well, the public has certainly jumped all over the Utes. You know, last night, that game could be found for 4.5 points. This morning, immediately jumped up to 5, up to 5.5, then mainly 6 points as I do this report. Well, it shows you the support the Utes are getting. And, of course, it was last year in a lightning-delayed game that Utah went into Ann Arbor and really finally started to put that final stake in Brady Hoke's tenure as Michigan's head coach as they won that game with ease. And that eventually led to the hiring of Jim Harbaugh. Well, Harbaugh's going to turn that program around, but you got to wonder how long is it going to take because he doesn't have a lot of returning talent. Let's face it. Meanwhile, you got a Utah team that had a very strong defensive line in terms of stopping the run last year. Very good pass rushing team with 55 sacks going against the quarterback tandem of Iowa transfer Jake Ruddick, who is a senior and is probably, although Harbaugh wouldn't commit publicly, probably going to start tonight. And another guy in Shane Morris, who really hasn't ever done anything. In fact, he's never thrown a touchdown pass in his brief college career. Those two guys are going to be seeing the bulk of the action at quarterback. On the other hand, for Utah, you have a fourth-year senior in Travis Wilson. You've got a running back, Devontae Booker, who last year ran for over 1,500 yards. And a lot of guys will point out to the fact that against a very strong Michigan defensive line last year in Ann Arbor, he did nothing, only 34 yards on 11 carries. But also remember, it was just the third game of the season. He was sharing the job at the time with Bubba Poole, who subsequently moved to wide receiver because, again, Booker ended up the season with over 1,500 yards. You got a Michigan team that was 109th in the country last year in scoring offense. And it's just, you know, a bunch of pieces on offense this year. They were 112 in total offense a year ago. Utah, as I said, won 26-10 as a 3.5-point road dog last year. They've covered 8 straight non-conference outings. Huge game for Utah. I mean, a huge game. It's a nationally televised game. You got Harbaugh, who really is the best thing Michigan has going for you, a guy who brought his 49ers to the Super Bowl, right? You got the altitude advantage in Salt Lake as well. You got a very underrated coach in Kyle Whittingham for a Utah team that went 9-4 last year in the ultra-tough Pac-12 conference. I think they can get the job done here tonight. Am I alarmed a little bit at the price going up? Sure, but listen, is there really that big of a difference between 4.5 and 6? 3 and 6? Yeah, there's a big difference. Look, this line's going to be around 6. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be somewhere like Utah 24-13. I just don't think it's going to be a lot of offensive fireworks. I think both teams will show up defensively, even though Michigan lost 2 starting defensive ends and a nose tackle recently to a season-ending injury. The defensive ends, of course, graduation. They are a very deep team. Their front 7, I mean, very deep, a lot of reserve strength. So, again, I think a low-scoring defensive battle, but I do believe Utah will ride the crest of emotion and momentum playing at home and roll to the win. Now, North Carolina is a 2.5-point underdog against South Carolina in a game that's being played in Charlotte, where the Panthers play, the NFL team. This is a UNC team that allowed 39 points a game last season, and that prompted Larry Fedora, who's watched his win total the past 3 years go from 8 to 7 to 6, to go out and hire Gene Chizik as his defensive coordinator. Now, a lot of folks remember him as the former Auburn coach that couldn't get the job done. But they tend to forget that in 2005, he was the defensive coordinator of UT, Texas's national championship team. This is a North Carolina team that is loaded offensively. 9 starters back on offense, including a 5th-year senior, Marquise Williams, a quarterback. He's a dual threat, passed for over 3,000 yards last year, ran for over 700 yards last year. Top 3 running backs are back. Top 4 wide receivers are back. They play up-tempo. They play fast-paced. This South Carolina team was no good defensively either last year. And you have to wonder about how South Carolina is going to do offensively. They've got a sophomore quarterback in Connor Mitch, who's attempted 6 collegiate passes in his brief career, making the start here tonight. You got a Gamecocks team that was 1-5-1 against the spread in its last 7 as a road favorite, 1-7 against the spread, laying points no matter the location where they were playing a year ago. And remember, this is a South Carolina team that last year opened up at home as a 10-point favorite and lost 52-28 against Texas A&M. Couldn't handle A&M's high-powered offense either. As I said, this is a very, very important game for North Carolina. A very big year for Larry Fedora, who may find himself out of a job in Chapel Hill if he doesn't get the job done on the field here. A North Carolina State team that a lot of people were questioning the team's chemistry in the locker room because of the way they got blown out by NC State and Rutgers to end last season. Steve Spurrier is 23-2 straight up in his career in season openers. One of those losses was last year. I tell you guys, I think this game could go over. I mean, I could easily see a 38-35 game. Okay, I think that's one way to play it. And I like North Carolina to win it outright. Of the two, I like North Carolina straight up to pull the upset as the free play, the official free play. But I would lean also a little toward the over in that contest too. So your complimentary plays are going to be North Carolina and Utah. But as I said, I had handicapped the Central Florida International game, so let me run through that one. Now, I often think when I talk about Central Florida, what would have happened in South Bend if George O'Leary had been able to keep the job as Notre Dame's football coach, because he's certainly done a great job in Orlando, turning the Central Florida team into a perennial bowl contender. But the Knights are coming into this game having lost 14 starters from last year's team. They only have 4 starters back on defense, and that defense last year was damn tough, giving up just 19.2 points a game, 3.2 yards per carry. And Florida International, with an unsettled quarterback situation, is going to try to run the ball here tonight on them. The good thing is that most of the Knights' losses defensively in terms of depth and returning starters happened in the back 7. Their front line is still very strong. This is a Florida International team that was 120th in the league, in the country last year in total offense. The Knights have 4 offensive linemen back. They have Justin Holman, who emerged as their quarterback last year and threw for a little over 2,900 yards. They've got a running back, William Stanback, who ran for almost 700 yards last year despite missing numerous games because of various injuries. You've got a UCF team that's on a 20-10 ATS roll at home. George O'Leary past 3 years, 12-0 on Thursday nights, 12-0 straight up, 7-1 ATS roll and home openers for the Knights. Of course, the big thing for UCF here tonight is this is the prep game. They're going to play Stanford next week, okay? And it's going to be on the road in Palo Alto. So they've got to deliver the goods here tonight. And they're going to try to run the ball, something they did not do successfully last year. I think they ran for like 400 yards less as a team than they did the year prior. And they're going to try to do that against a pretty decent Florida International defense, especially along their front line, because they were ranked 35th in the country last year in terms of stopping the run. In fact, they returned their entire front 7. They did lose their entire secondary, however, so that should open some passing lanes for Holman. I think this is a fairly priced game at 13. If you back me in the corner, I'd probably say I'd like to lay the points still with Central Florida because I just don't have any confidence in Florida International offensively. But again, it's just a lean on Central Florida. Well, that'll do it, guys, as we prep here for day number 1 of college football. Remember, as I always tell you at the beginning of every single season, it is the only time, the first couple of weeks of any season, no matter the sport, where we have the advantage over the odds makers because they don't know anything more about these teams teams than we do. They just know what we've read, what we've seen from beat writers reporting from camps, what coaches have said, etc. Now, the lines will inevitably change, and the odds makers will retake a certain advantage a few weeks down the road. But in college football especially, you have the advantage. We have the advantage, especially until conference action start. So the first 3-4 weeks here of the season, remember, it's the time to load up. It's the time that you shouldn't be afraid of favorites either, because the favorites are underpriced here. And if you're a dog player, it's the time that sometimes you get burned, because generally, because those prices are undervalued, you're not getting the necessary points in dog situations. I generally find the first couple of weeks of college football, chalks generally hold the edge against the odds makers. But hey, we'll see what happens, and we'll recap it on Tuesday after the first weekend of action. That'll do it, guys. Best of luck to you all, and I'll catch you again tomorrow when we do this one more time.